Hello everyone, welcome back to European Research Showcase. My name is Sam. I'm the coordinator for today's event as part of Intersections 2023. Over today and yesterday or tomorrow, depending on when you're watching this, we will have had over 50 researchers from across Europe showcasing the work that they do, finding out a little bit more about who they are, why they're awesome, and why they think you should know more about their work. So we're here with another researcher to have a quick fire chat to find out who they are and what it is that they do. So please give it up for Brenda Lovell. Hi Brenda, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Could you tell us who you are and what it is that you do?
Okay, thank you. I'm a communications and language specialist, and I do research on health and communications. So my research right now will focus on uh, during the COVID pandemic. There was a lot of issues with health research or health communication specialists. They were on the front line. They were working with patients. There was a lot of media coverage about some of the conditions they faced while working. So I actually interviewed many of these doctors who were working on the front lines. And so my upcoming qualitative study will look at how they communicated. It looks some of their health issues, some of the work issues that they faced. And it should be very, very interesting. I had countries across Europe, so I'll put it into a qualitative paper. Sometimes qualitative research, I think, gives a little more insight into their actual thoughts and feelings, which maybe wouldn't happen in a quantitative paper.
So, for any audience members who might not know the difference between a quantitative and qualitative, what do you mean there specifically?
Well, quantitative uses only numbers, where qualitative uses speech. So all of the qualitative research that I do will focus on, I ask the participants questions and they respond with their speech. So the entire research is reported in speech. There's no numbers.
Okay. Well, how did you end up in this sort of work? Like, what led you to this career?
But when I first started my career, I was a coordinator in a health department in actually community health science. So from then on, we looked at many of the health issues surrounding healthcare workers. You know, there's a large amount of burnout among healthcare workers. So I wanted to know as I progressed through my career, what is causing this burnout? What are some of the factors that increase burnout? I did start using a lot of quantitative papers. Then I started moving into qualitative. Sometimes qualitative research can trigger an interesting question that can be looked at in a follow-up quantitative paper.
Okay. And you said that you're working across European countries and you're
Yeah.
specifically based in Paris. What other countries are involved in the work you're doing?
In this particular study, I have French, Italian, Belgian uh, doctors who have participated in this study. One of my participants in this study was multilingual. So she did interview in Italian to some of the Italian doctors. Of course, a lot of the people in healthcare speak English, so that was helpful. So we did most of them in English, but there were some in Italian that we had to then uh, transcribe into English so that all the rest of the people in our study, we had one common language, which was English.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, I can see that how like that must be a big part of what everyday life looks like for you and your job, which is the next question I wanted to ask. Like, what does an average, if there is an average, day look like for you?
Uh, I teach a lot as well. So right now I'm teaching scientific English. So it's in the healthcare field. So I do a lot of teaching as well in communications, also in presentations. So a lot of students and a lot of people need to know how to communicate effectively. So I do a lot of teaching in how to do a PowerPoint, how to be an effective speaker. So a lot of my research and teaching falls in those categories.
So, what would you say is the biggest challenge then with getting those messages across? It's something that I do quite a lot in my day
Yeah.
to day life as well when it comes to putting together presentations or uh, like communication skills training. So, what would you say is some of the
Mhm.
biggest challenges there for you?
The biggest challenge of, again, because I have students who are trying to report scientific, it's okay, first of all, you have to know your target audience. It's very, very important. So if you're dealing with a public audience, if you're dealing with a scientific audience, they're very different. Your approach is very different. So there's a concept, well, you tend to use plain language when you're dealing with a non-scientific audience. When you're dealing with a scientific audience, you can stick more with the scientific language. But nevertheless, I still have challenges getting students to be very clear in what they present. So the more in your mind that you're very clear in what you're doing, the better you'll present your ideas. So I'd say the biggest challenge is just getting the gist of what they're doing. What are you doing? Why? What is the result? What is the conclusion? So it's sometimes hard to get them to be very succinct and clear in what they're presenting.
Yeah, I would agree with that in any of the work that
Yeah.
I've previously done as well. So what would you, if you were talking about the work that you do, whether it is in the teaching aspect or the research
Mm-hmm.
aspect, what
Mm-hmm.
would be the main thing you would want a public audience to know about your work?
I think that for a public audience, I think it's important for everyone to realize that the healthcare workers and healthcare doctors are under extreme stress and extreme, um, they're dealing with a lot of people very sick. So it's a good thing to think about how can I improve my experience with my healthcare provider as well. There's a concept called shared decision making where the patient and the doctor both should share equally in the interview. So the more that you understand the doctor, the more that the doctor understands you, the better the outcome will be.
Amazing. And this is just me thinking about it from because I don't know what the healthcare systems are like in France, Belgium, and Italy comparison to the UK where I am, where
Mm-hmm.
we have a free at point of use
Yes,
health service, but it is massively strained with
yes,
budgets and staffing and similar stressors. Is
yes.
that something that's also been found across these other European nations?
Definitely there is. I think definitely there are strains. I think the NHS, which was the UK, there's a system that I did research on several years ago. It's called the sort of one topic per interview concept. It's done in Canada, and I believe it's done in the NHS, where patients should only bring one topic of concern to the interview with the doctor. Because if you come in with multiple problems, the doctor has to ascertain, okay, what is the biggest risk for that patient that day? And then there's the concept where patients should only be allowed to come in and have the interview with the doctor on one problem and over a certain period of time. So the Canadian system says you can only come with one problem for, say, 10 minutes, and that's all. So it might come to a point sometime where I know there's a lot of strife right now in France. The doctors, the general practice doctors are striking because they want to increase their basic fee, which is 25 euros, to about 50 euros. So, is it better to increase the fee or is it better just to set standards with your interview so that rather than come in for an indeterminate length of time, which I understand is what happens. I don't believe the French system limits the amount of time you can spend with the doctor. So that might be some of the issues that also should be looked at.
Well, it really seems as though the work that you're doing to understand the thoughts and feelings and ideas of healthcare workers in these nations is only going to be a massive help in order to like cause potential improvements for those working and for the patients and for health outcomes. So,
I hope so, yeah.
Brenda, thank you so much for coming to have a chat with us this morning. Really, really like appreciative of your time.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to meet you as well.
Folks,
Okay.
thank you so much for watching along. If you've got any questions, please leave them below on whatever social media platform it is that you're watching on. If you're watching us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever, please do leave any questions or comments below. Likes and shares and retweets are always welcome. There's more to come, so stick around. There is more things happening as part of the European Research Showcase. For now, though, take care. We'll see you all very soon.